scary to leave.
Yeah.
It's scary to think of what your life is going to be like on the outside. But once you don't have to hide who you truly are anymore, it's so freeing. And you have such a sense of joy and happiness in your life because you can truly be who you want to be. Yeah. It's not defined by anybody else but yourself. This is Glamorous and Polyamorous,
a show about exploring polyamory and other forms of non-monogamy after religion.
I'm Kelly Smith.
And I'm Xavi Benjamin. Do you feel like you understood who you were before you left the cult? Like,
no. Yeah. Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you seriously. Like, do you, at the time, I'm not saying now, at the time, did you feel like you knew yourself? Like you knew what you wanted? You knew what direction your life had?
No, not at all. I didn't feel like an individual at all. I felt like I was just doing what I was told to do and then going along with whatever I was told to do. And I was just trying to get to the end.
But you felt it at the time?
When I was in?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought
wild.
Like I was doing everything right. So I'm going to just make it to paradise. That's what I thought. Like I just have to get through this time now to get to paradise.
I get that. I guess what I'm saying is that when I was a Jehovah's Witness, when I was totally like in the cult, I thought I had it all figured out in terms of who I was, what like mattered to me in life, and like what I wanted to do with my life.
Oh yeah.
And like I didn't realize until I got out of the cult how much I did not know about myself. How much I actually had repressed about myself. That I think that's what I'm talking about. Like, I did not know that when I was in. Yeah. I didn't know that I didn't know who I was when I was a Jehovah's Witness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think when I was in too, I thought like, I'm doing so good. My life is great. And it wasn't until I got out that I realized I don't know who I am. I have to figure this out again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to figure it out for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see, in that, I think that's a really good point too, because I thought all these things that I believed were me.
Right.
I thought all of these things that I believed were things that I believed because that's what my internal moral compass had pointed me towards, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the thing that comes to my mind is, you know how they say of Timothy, right, that he was persuaded to believe something like that, you know? And like, that's something that my mom always used to tell me, that like, oh, you know, I was an intelligent person, and like, you know, I had come to these conclusions on my own research, you know? Yeah. And like, no, you know, I got baptized at 9. Like, I didn't do my own research, you know? Right.
You were just told what to do, what to believe.
I wanted to pass the microphones at the Kingdom Hall. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought getting baptized meant. You know? Getting to do something cool that my friends were doing.
Right.
I realize that now. And of course, it's like, you're 9. Yeah. You do not understand the concept of what it means to dedicate your whole fucking life to an entity you do not actually know exists.
Yeah. I know. I feel like I think a lot of my insecurities actually come from my childhood being in that, because you're told you're not special. You're nothing special. So anything that you feel, like, just put it away, just push it away, push it down. Anything that you think, just push that down. And you develop this feeling of like, okay, I'm not special. you know, I just have to follow along, just like be a good little girl and follow along just like everyone else and do what's right. And I feel like that transformed once I got out of that, because there's so many things that I wanted to do that I was never allowed to do. Like I always wanted, I love the color pink. I always wanted to dye my hair pink. And it's like, now I have the freedom to do that. And it's so awesome.
Isn't that wild that it's like such a small thing, but it's like a big deal. Right. That you get stripped of all the things that make you unique.
Yeah.
All the things that make you you. Mm-hmm. You are not allowed to express it. You're not allowed to have like, I wouldn't be allowed to have a septum piercing. I wouldn't be allowed to paint my nails. I wouldn't be allowed to dye my hair. All of these things that are part of your self-expression, you're not allowed to do because they make you part of this world, supposedly.
Right.
You know, and ultimately what it is them ripping, they rip those choices from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't get to make them.
Yeah. No tattoos, no beards.
No tattoos.
You could not color your hair like that. You could even cut your hair like that.
Right.
It would be frowned on.
I wouldn't be able to have like a mohawk kind of.
You would be like bad association.
Yeah. Bad association, man. I am.
Once you leave the religion, you have to basically figure out how to interact with people again, because you're told that everyone outside of the religion is bad or worldly and you can't associate with them. You can't be friends with them. No. So then coming back, when you leave, you basically have to relearn how to interact with people again.
Yeah. The story that I tell often when I think about this is I realize that I operate in the world a lot of times very closed off to connection. And I hadn't realized that. When I was coming back from Puerto Rico, and I was in line at a Starbucks at the airport, and this older man started making conversation with me out of the blue. And at first I remember feeling a little bit like irritated that he was talking to me.
Yeah.
And then as we got into the conversation, I realized how kind of wonderful it was. How wonderful it was that like this random person decided to say hello to me, you know?
Yeah.
It was really nice, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's in little things like that I realized that being a Jehovah's Witness caused me to like live my life kind of with horse blinders on and not aware of the wonderful people around me, you know? And I think that has a lot to do with what you're saying about no one who's worldly is trustworthy, you know?
I know. We weren't even allowed to interact with our cousins who were not Jehovah's Witnesses, or neighbors that were not Jehovah's Witnesses.
Same.
You had to only be in this one friend group of people that were in your congregation.
Yeah.
That's all you could interact with.
Yeah. I had a cousin. His dad was my grandfather's brother, and he was never a witness. Mm-hmm. And but this cousin of mine loved basketball, loved the Lakers, and at the time I was also really into it. Yeah. And I remember this uncle saying, you know, "Oh, we can take you to a game with us sometime." And I remember being so excited about that and talking to my mom about it, and she was like, "No, we wouldn't let you go."
Oh, sad.
No.
That's hard. Yeah, I mean, I had experiences like that at school where like friends were always having a party. I would be invited, but I could never go.
Yeah.
Or I didn't even get to go to prom.
Man, that's a good thing. Like, would you get invited to like people's birthday parties and stuff?
Yeah.
Really?
I did.
I don't remember if I got invited to a lot of like classmates' birthday parties, like, you know, and again, it was like, because I think I was kind of weird. I mean, not to mention I was an only child, so I was very like talkative, I think, and some kids didn't like that. Like I was annoying, and I get it, but like I think also the whole thing of like not being able to celebrate birthdays, the fact that like any time that the class would do anything with any kind of holiday, I had to excuse myself, I had to leave, I had to say that I couldn't participate in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so I feel like that isolates you from the other people.
Yeah, I would always have to go to the library when Halloween would come around or when Christmas would come and they had the Christmas holiday stuff. I was never allowed to do it. I would get invited to birthday parties, but I would always have to tell them, no, I can't go. And I would be so sad. I remember just being so sad that I couldn't go.
I definitely think that has an effect on how you end up interacting with people.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, when you grow up.
Yeah. And you learn to, I don't even know what you learn. It's just something that that is part of you that you have to deal with now. But that's the great thing about now being out is that you learn who you are, you learn how to be yourself, and you have new values that define who you are.
How did you go about figuring that out for yourself?
I feel like when I was in, I always had my own set of values. Yeah. And I feel like even when I would not agree with certain things, I'm like, well, in my head, I know I'm right. And so I would just do my own thing. And I feel like that trickled down into who I am. Because sometimes I think like, oh, I'll just do what I want to do. And it affects my relationships in the meantime. I feel like I've always had like a set of values that define me. And that didn't always align with what the organization wanted you to follow. But I think in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I know I'm doing what I think is right. And that's okay with me. So I always thought God would be okay with that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I think I always thought like...
So you've been an apostate for a long time.
Yeah, because I was like, I always thought like, well, my standards can't be higher than God's. So how could he possibly think this is wrong if I don't think it's wrong?
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And that has been interesting when you think about a lot of the doctrine that was taught in the organization. Like, you know, coming out of it now, I'm like, how did I let 9 men, now it's 9 men in New York, define what my morals were?
Right.
Especially when most of that was just their opinions about things. Like, how could they feel that it was morally acceptable to let a child die from refusing to accept a blood transfusion? But yet they wouldn't allow, it was immoral to wear tight pants. Or
it was bad.
It was immoral for a man to wear a tight suit or a woman to wear yoga pants. Like, but you would let a child die? No.
Yeah.
And I think,
and that's without even touching like the CSA cover up that they've done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't even get me started on the 2 winners rule.
Yeah. Right.
But it's like when leaving that, I was like, no, I always felt like, okay, when I would hear stuff like that, that's their opinion. I think in the back of my mind, I always thought that.
Yeah.
And I still would be like, okay, that's their opinion. But I mean, how did you go about feeling, or how did you feel as far as like the morals of the religion?
Can I just say though that like I envy that you felt that way, because I was taught a very different, I think, fanaticism, right? I was taught that, no, this is the way that it is being said in this book. And so this is how you follow it. You follow it to the letter, you know? And, you know, I think, yes, as I got older, there was more this idea that I think my mom would say of like people before protocol, you know? And like, I think that was the kind of loosening of those very tight rules, honestly,
Yeah.
that we had about what classified as right or wrong worship and, all of this stuff,
Yeah.
And so I think up until then, all of my opinions, I think, were formed by saying, okay, what does honestly Jehovah's Witness literature say about this particular thing?
Yeah.
And that was what I tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times where I could start to feel those things eroding. I remember there was a story. I think we covered it maybe in one of the midweek meetings about how Jehovah's Witnesses were covered in the media. I think this was still when we were in Minnesota. And I remember telling you, like, it seems strange to me that the direction is just like, oh, don't pay attention to those lies. They're just lies.
Yeah.
And I said, and I mean, I'm still believing Jehovah's Witness at this point. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me that you can just say all of these stories are lies about us without actually individually refuting those claims.
Yeah.
If we're the truth.
Right.
And so I think ultimately that's really what undid it all for me. Because, once I realized that this religion wasn't real and it didn't make sense, then I also realized, okay, now it's up to me to define what matters to me.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I've always had a little bit of an interest in politics. And so I think, that's where I really started getting more interested in politics and more interested in like local community and how those things affect our daily lives. I started getting more informed on those kind of things, I think my views have changed radically since I was a witness. But I think they interestingly enough, I still think that they are very congruent with the core of the person that I've always been.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in the religion you're taught, okay, go by what the Bible says. You have to, supposedly what the Bible says. And as I got out of the religion, I realized, as I examined what the Bible says, I realized I don't agree with a lot of what the Bible says. There's a lot of misogyny in it. There's a lot of homophobia in it. There's, the views on how to treat your slavery in the Bible, how to treat a slave.
How to treat your slave.
What?
Yeah.
I don't agree with a lot of that's in there.
We won't say that slavery is bad, but we'll tell you how to treat your slave in a good way, hopefully. How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
That's funny.
How to treat your enemy. There's a lot especially in the Hebrew scriptures that I just don't agree with anymore.
What do you feel have been the benefits for you personally? Like, what makes you happy and proud and, all the other positive emotions about taking on this very difficult journey, I think, of like rediscovering yourself?
Yeah. I feel like, it's scary. It's scary to leave.
Yeah.
It's scary to think of what your life is going to be like on the outside. But once you don't have to hide who you truly are anymore, it's so freeing. And you have such a sense of joy and happiness in your life because you can truly be who you want to be. Yeah. It's not defined by anybody else but yourself.
The positive changes for me have been that I think as I have gotten to know myself more and found values that, again, are congruent with me and feel right for me, I think I've also acquired a lot of love for myself because I think along the way I realized that there were things about me that I hated about me because I thought that they were wrong and they were disgusting and signs of bad moral character. You know,
Yeah.
like I truly thought that my interest in sex and my like just being a horny individual was like a truly bad thing. And I've told you this before. Like I remember a lot of times praying that I could just be a robot and like do what I was being told to do.
Yeah.
You know? And so it feels very freeing to now not hate myself. You know? Does that mean that every day is sunshine and roses? No, because I think this cult makes it hard to leave on purpose.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They use your family against you.
They don't want you to
use your
leave.
community against you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I like that what you said about not being a robot anymore, because it's like, no, I get to take control of my life. I get to write the next chapter. It's not written for me.
What's your key takeaway?
I think I've come to realize that I am a unique person. There is nobody like me. I'm not replaceable like they teach you.
Yeah.
And I want to find happiness in my life. And by being myself, I can truly be happy. Oh, I liked what someone said, like when you have to hide who you are, you're so lonely and you suffer. And I feel like that's you. That's how you were. You had to hide who you truly were.
Yeah.
And you got depressed from that.
I think that my key takeaway is related to something that you said earlier, which is like, I didn't get to do some of the things that I wanted to do because of this religion. And I think like that has been the most exciting thing of reclaiming my identity and finding who it is that I am. Because I think my therapist says that when you are at your highest self, there are like 8 C's of things that you show. There's like compassion, creativity, courage. There's a whole bunch of others. But I feel like that has happened for me. You know, I feel like this past year, I am so proud of what I did with my music. And I think that would have never been possible had I not left Jehovah's Witnesses, honestly. I'm very happy to finally get the opportunity to be myself and get to do the things that like I want to do, and not just that, but like put out into the world the things that I want to put out into the world. Make my unique mark on this earth and on people, hopefully. I wasn't allowed to have that ambition as a witness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to be out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. What helped you reclaim your identity after leaving religion? We'd love to hear from you in a comment below, or email us at hello@glampolyam.com. Where can the people find us on the internet, Kel?
They can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all the places at Glam Polyam.
If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider writing us a rating or review wherever you are getting your podcast from. We would really appreciate it. If you send us a DM or an email with a screenshot of your review, we'll send you our new sticker, Slut for Kind People, which is hitting the town, and it is popular. Okay, let's just say that.